when I was here, but that's the same week as the Popcorn Festival. So once they started the Popcorn Festival, I kind of took care of us covering the Hardin County Fair. I've seen some pictures, and again, we got some old newsletters and some pictures and so forth of the WMRN tent, not only at the Marion County Fair, but some of the other fairs. And literally thousands of people would come to the tents.
I've got some of those pictures going clear back into the 40s of the fair, and yes, that was the highlight for so many people. And we had so many all day long, from say 9-something in the morning till in the evening. We had programs originating from the fair. We had a lot of contests. People won grocery bags or bags full of groceries, and it was really fun.
In looking back at some of the old newsletters and so forth, Joe Peters, I think Joe started here in about 40. You started when?
49.
Okay, and Joe started about that time.
Yeah.
And once he started, it looked like that's when the remotes really picked up. And I was commenting, it might have been you, not too long ago, the Friday after Thanksgiving, we would start out, we would do a remote at Depot Sales at like 6 to 8 or 7 to 9. We would sometimes do 5 or 6 remotes that single day. Yeah. And almost every Saturday, we did 2 or 3 remotes. It was nice to get the extra income.
The interesting thing, technically, we didn't do too many remotes other than the Kennedy Capers on Saturday mornings, because our manager thought that the FCC would frown on being at a business for a certain period of time, and that would be counted as a commercial. We were limited to so many commercials an hour at that time.
Okay.
And being at a sponsor or a business for an hour, that's an hour's worth of commercials. And the manager thought, no, we can't do that. So it was Kennedy Capers was the only remote we were doing for a long time.
Interesting. Well, now, when Joe Ione came, he did the neighborhood news.
Yes, he was strictly news.
And he did that, was it Klein's that he did the news there?
Jim Dugan's sponsored neighborhood news. It got to be 123 North Main Street, Jim Dugan's. For all the time I can remember, it was Jim Dugan's a sponsor.
Okay. Well, what was Klein's Quizzers? Was that?
That was Madge's deal. Yeah, Klein's department store, I think, went out of business about the time I started, or a little bit before.
And where was Klein's located?
I can't remember which building it was. Down by Mays Jewelers, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that might have been the building.
I remember we always had a news block at 7:30. 6:30 was a big news block, maybe 6 or 7 minutes. But the big news block was 7:30. It was always sponsored by Depot Sales, Jim Dugan's, and Lord's Jewelers at that time, and they sponsored it for years.
Yeah, what an era that was when you think about it. And we had so many sponsors that lasted years and years, like you say.
I had been doing mornings about a month, not much longer than that, and was 6:30 News. Bill Mercer was our news director.
Oh, yes.
Remember Bill?
Oh, yeah.
Bill would go in. Bill, I mean, he had a cigarette in each hand, and he was one of those. He never put a cigarette out. He would just light another cigarette.
A real chain smoker.
Yeah, had a great voice, and eventually died of cancer.
Yeah.
But he did the news, and he would always do it like first take. And he would also was our production director, and he would sit down. He would do a commercial, and be between 29 and a half and 30 and a half seconds all the time. He never had a watch or anything.
Yeah.
He just knew. But he had done a story about somebody on Lake Erie using a shyster lure. And that was the last kind of a kicker, we call it.
Yes.
The last story he did. somebody had caught a record-breaking fish on Lake Erie, and he sent it back to me, and I said, speaking of shysters, this portion of the news has been brought to you by, and I mentioned the sponsor.
Oh.
Never made the connection.
Oh.
And about 8 o'clock, Sheldon Dodds was one of our salespeople, came in. I'm not going to mention the person's no longer alive, and the business hasn't been around for years and years. But Sheldon came in and said, did you make a comment about this particular business? I said, no, I don't know who the person is. And Roger Fisher came in, who was our program director at Sports. He came in about 8:30 and made the same comment. I said, did you make a comment about such and such? And I said, no. I said, must have been the guy in the FM. So then George Yoakum, who had just become our general manager at the time, he came in about 9 o'clock and said, what did you say about this particular person or business? I said, I don't know. You're the third person that's asked me why. I said, well, he's on the phone. He's going to sue us.
Oh, no.
So I couldn't remember. Bill didn't remember me saying anything like that. So I ended up, when I got off the air, went home and put on a suit and tie, and we went down and tried to appease him. And
really?
He finally agreed not to sue us, but he never would shake my hand.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
That was years ago. Anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the stories that Charlie was involved in, and some of the history, again, of WMRN. And thank you for tuning in. It was 75 years ago today, just about noon, that WMRN went on the air. We've got boys basketball tonight, going to be over at River Valley for the game between River Valley and Cardington. We'll tip tonight at about 7:30. We'll be back with Charlie. News is next.
Here's your Marion area forecast, coming to you safe and sound from the Marion Community Credit Union Weather Center on News Radio 1490 WMRN.
Rain showers with windy conditions today. A thunderstorm is possible. We'll see a high of 64. Windy with showers and thunderstorms likely tonight. A few storms may be severe. We'll see a low of 51. Sunshine and clouds mix for your Thursday with a high of 54. For Christmas Eve, we'll see a few clouds from time to time. We'll have a low of 41.
Minutes before 8 o'clock, 55 degrees in Marion, and our sports brought to you by Dr. James Gilsdorf, your Invisalign expert in Marion. Buckeyes a winner last night as they got up to a slow start, but played a good second half. Iowa State beating Mercer last night, 64-44 down in Columbus. Juan Lyle had 18 for the Buckeyes. Buckeyes host South Carolina State Sunday. Two Cleveland Browns named to the Pro Bowl, Joe Thomas, Alex Mack. Thomas's 9th time, tying the Cleveland record held by Jim Brown, and Luke Rosa, 5 Bengals named to the Pro Bowl. College basketball, top 25, number 1 Michigan State had to rally from 15 down to beat Oakland University in overtime last night, 99-93. Number 5 Virginia beat California in overtime as well, 63-62. Number 6 Xavier won. Number 21 Cincinnati, they lost at home to number 9 Iowa State. Couple of bowl games. Akron wins the famous Idaho Potato Bowl out in Boise, Idaho, 23-21. While Toledo beat Temple down in Boca Raton, Florida. That score was 32-17. Tonight it's boys basketball. Going to be over at River Valley tonight for the game between River Valley and Cardington. 19 minutes before 8 o'clock, Charlie is joining us this morning in studio. Time for Quickie Quiz. If you know the answer to our Quickie Quiz question for this morning, I will fix you up with a free car wash from Blue Streak Wash and Fill, located on Delaware Avenue. Also give you a free garage door and safety inspection from the door guys at 793 North Main in Marion. And also, if you'd like, got 4 tickets for the Harlem Globetrotters. They're going to be at the Shot down in Columbus next Tuesday for 2 shows. One at 1 in the afternoon, one at 6 o'clock in the evening. And if you'd like to go to that, I'll give you 4 tickets for that. Charlie, what's the question?
Well, this will be an easy one for some people. There used to be a hardware store located on the west side of South Main between Center and Church. Of course, it has been there for years. Can you name that hardware store on the west side of Main Street between Church and Center?
Used to do advertising with us because I remember the name. Right. All right. So if you know the name of the hardware store, 740-387-1611. Hi, good morning. Do you have an answer?
Turner Hardware.
Boy, that was quick. That was quick, yeah. Is this Ernie?
Yes, it is.
Do you know Ernie Brees?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I wonder what relation he is to Gloria Brees.
It's a distant relative.
Oh, okay.
Ernie
Ron's my brother. You probably know Ron from
yes.
Bird Count. And
oh, yes, of course.
Eagle picture?
Yes. The eagle eating roadkill, right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Well, Ernie knows a lot about a lot of things, and Ernie's been around a long time.
Yes.
So, okay. Ernie, you know the drill. Now, if you want to stop out today, we'll be here only till 1 o'clock this afternoon, and then we'll be closed tomorrow and Friday. But if you want to stop out, next Monday or Tuesday, that's fine.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you, Ernie, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you and your family. So, you recognize voices after a while. Sometimes I don't have to tell them their name. But yeah, Ernie's a long-time listener.
I could have asked the question. His distant relative was once the meter maid in Marion. What was her name? That was Gloria Brees.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, the meter maid.
Now, when did we have meter maids?
Well, it was back in the 70s. Because, tell you what, Gil Gomez, we had a deal every year. 1 year I pushed him in a wheelbarrow, another year in a bathtub, and he had a retina problem. They had an operation on his eyes, so we put him in a rocking chair, and I pushed him in a rocking chair in my Christmas parade, and Gloria Brees walked beside him in her uniform with an oversized hypodermic needle thing. It was one of those things.
Now, you talked about Gil Gomez, and of course, when I started kind of doing it in the mornings, Kathy Francis was the one.
Yes,
of course, Kathy had been on for a long time, and people used to love to hear what the weather was going to be like, and if somebody was going to Florida, for vacation next week, give us the forecast or whatever. And Kathy was so good, and I know Gil was as well. How did you get Gil down here to do all the things that he did?
Well,
because obviously he had more than one radio station.
Oh, he had numerous stations every day.
And he didn't do that for everybody.
That's right.
So what was the attraction?
I don't know. I accepted. I kept him on the line for 10 or 15 minutes every day, talking about the intricacies of weather and this and that. And I don't know, things developed, and we decided to do something crazy. Well, I organized an all-expense-paid trip to Plankton, Ohio. And Gil Gomez, that was the first thing.
Was that Crawford County?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was the first thing that Gil ever participated in. He came down and with his family, his kids and his wife, and they always stayed at Floyd Clough's house. So we all went on a trip to Plankton, Ohio. There were 20 cars, and the sheriff's cruiser escorted us. And when we got there, of course, they had a farm wagon there and a self-appointed mayor of Plankton, and had sawed out several keys to Plankton out of plywood and painted them gold and gave, see this kind of a ridiculous thing. But on the way, the sheriff's department stopped the car that Gil Gomez and his family were in, playfully, not serious, and it scared Gil's kids. They screamed and cried, thinking, because they took Gil and his wife away and put them in the cruiser and left the kids with us. Oh my, that was traumatic. But that's the first thing that Gil participated in. But he became so popular in the Marion area that we decided that we'd like to meet a lot of people, our listeners. So one weekend, he came down and we toured all the little towns around here. We spent hours and hours. The last place we were was in Essex, Ohio, down near Richwood. And I can remember everywhere we went, people gave us cookies. And we had so many cookies we couldn't stand to eat anymore. And we wanted something else. So we stopped in a grocery store in Essex, and I bought some cheese. And so we ate some cheese as a departure from all those cookies. We did crazy things.
Now, in looking at some of the old pictures, when we started out, we were at 1,500.
Yes.
Because I know we have the jingle 1490 since 1940,
yeah, right.
but we weren't really 1490
exactly,
in 1940. Yeah. When did that all happen?
Well, it must have been in the first year. Down where we are in this 1490 and all these other frequencies nearby, it's a certain class of stations. But I really